Well, I went in the Army in December of 1942, and I was sent to Camp Claiborne, which is near Alexander, Louisiana. And the 103rd Infantry Division was just being activated at that time. So I was in that division, and I was there for a year doing maneuvers and Army training, and then they sent the whole division to Camp House, Texas, which is near Gainesville, and now they put up a monument to the 103rd Infantry Division near Gainesville. And I trained there for a year, maneuvers and what have you, and we was near Ardmore, Oklahoma, and Murray Lake is there, and we had to walk around that, which they said the shoreline is 100 miles. And we had several days to walk around that. And in the fall of 1944, we were sent overseas, and we landed in Marseille, France, after 2 rough weeks of seas. I know my dinner card wasn't punched very much because I was seasick most of the time. The whole division went over together, so we had to go in a convoy, you know, and we had escorts with us, and the sea was really rough. We had storms. It took us 14 days to go across the ocean. From there we went up towards the front, near the front lines, and I was a sergeant. I was a squad leader for the 81mm mortars. And the squad leaders had to go up to the front lines to observe the firing of the mortars. And we had what they call sound power telephones. So I had a string of wire from my gun up to the front lines so I could talk to the gunner and fire from there. It's different up there because you're up there with the riflemen, you know. See, a mortar shoots up and over a hill. You set your mortar down in a low place, then you have to go up on a high place to observe where they're shooting. And then you have to direct the fire. When you first get up there, you tell them to shoot around, and then you direct your fire from there. Like if you see a tank or something, if it's to the right or to the left, you tell, with your telephone, you tell your gunner to go so many rounds right or left or whatever. I know one night I was up there and I was ordered to burn a church down because they said the church was full of German soldiers. So then I would fire white phosphorus shells. That's a liquid, and whenever that explodes, that starts fire to everything, you know. I had fires going all over that town, but I never did burn the church down. And then one day I was up on the front lines and they called me to direct fire for the artillery. I saw a German tank sitting behind a building up there in the little town, little village. And so I started directing fire for that, and they started shooting up towards that. And then they told me that that tank had already been knocked out. I didn't hit it anyway, but I was trying. And we were in southern France, in the mountains. Summer wasn't too bad, but the winter we had quite a bit of snow, and then we were in the mountains most of the time. I trained in the desert, you might say, in Louisiana and Texas, and then they sent us over there. We was in the mountains all the time. We'd have foxholes to go into and things like that, but other than that, and wearing those doggone shoe packs that made my feet sore. They really didn't have any protection for your feet. It was just like a rubber boot slipping into, you know, and then the top was leather, and that would get all wrinkled up. And that's the reason why that rubbed on my ankle bone and got a bone infection from that. And I was sent to the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, they brought in a lady and her daughter that had stepped out the back door of their house and stepped onto mine and got their legs blowed off. So I made my mind up right then that I would go any place in the world rather than have a war here. They'd send K rations with us. We lived on K rations a lot. It's just a little box of crackers, and then there's a candy bar in there, just kind of a condensed food or whatever you want to call it, you know. We lived on that for quite a little. We would take over, run the Germans out of a village, and then we would, which wasn't very nice, run the old people out of their houses and stand there, have a bed to sleep in. I had a bed to sleep in over there more than I did when I was training over here in the States. Because if we'd take over a village, we'd go in there with our guns loaded, you know, and tell those poor old people, you got 15 minutes to get out here. And of course, there wasn't much left of their belongings when they come back, which wasn't very nice. But that's the reason you don't ever want to have a war here. Because the poor people there, the French people and the German people, old people, they had to put up with. Well, the Germans went through there first, and then we'd go through there. They did the same thing we did, run them out and take over their beds and whatever. I know we stayed at one house. The lady that was there, her husband was an officer in the German army. And they had a nice courtyard that we would spend some time in. And we was gone one day, and then we came back to that house, and there was a big hole blowed right beside the door that we go out to the courtyard. So she told the guys up there, the German people, that we were staying there and we'd spend a lot of time in that courtyard. So they thought they would blow us up, but we happened not to be there right then. There was a big hole right beside the door where we'd go out. After I was over there a few months, I was promoted to section sergeant, and I was in charge of 2 mortar squads or 16 men. And we went through France, Germany, and when the war was over, I ended up in Innsbruck, Austria, and I was supposed to go. Hitler had a hideout someplace up in the mountains in Austria, and I signed up to go. They was going to take a group of us up there. I overslept that morning. I didn't get to go. I have another story that we were all in a group of trees in a woods, like, you know, and we saw a German plane flying over. So we had 50 caliber machine guns on jeeps, you know. So the guy ran over and started shooting at it, and there was another plane coming behind it. He shot at it too. That happened to be an American plane chasing a German plane. So the American plane circled around and strafed us, which is shooting at us, you know, and dropped bombs on us. And I was laying right beside of a Jeep, and he shot the tire and the gas tank out of that Jeep where I was laying. But that happened to be an American that was shooting at us. but no one got hit. We was lucky that way. We was all scattered out in the woods, but see, we shot at him. We thought it was 2 German planes a-coming, and it was an American plane chasing the German plane. And then they was going to send us home, and from there we were supposed to go to Japan. And while we were in a staging area in western France, the war in Japan was over. But they sent us home anyway. And I got a 45-day furlough. And then I had to go back to Texas to get discharged. And in 1942, 43, and 44, I never got to come home for Christmas. I had a lot of close calls, but the good Lord was with me, and I came home without a scratch.